What's up everyone, Steven here with techmaker.tv. This is building a decentralized chat with aleph.im and Node JS part 18. I just actually loaded up my app that I was working on last time, and I started out by seeing an error, and it looks like we actually introduced some problems with some of the adjustments that we made last time. So I'm going to start today by sorting out some of these bugs, and that may be the main part of this video. And then once we get through that, if we have time, we'll start going into filtering out messages that don't belong in the channel if you're not a member and all of that stuff like we had talked about. So in this episode, I'm going to get into some kind of design pattern stuff that's sort of my personal opinion based on some things that I've learned. People can obviously have different opinions, but I'm going to show you some ways we could fix some of these problems, exactly what's going on, and why it's happening. So if you look right here, the error that we're getting back is that we don't have this channel details approved addresses. And we're going to see this error pop up in two places. So the first place is on this index page. And the reason we're getting this here is because we sort of reuse this index view, kind of like a junk drawer for the app. So it's the home page and it's also the chat page. So if you go read up on like solid design principles, you'll kind of get much more formal descriptions of some of the stuff that I'm gonna like fix here. But in short, I think whenever you have a lot of conditionals start popping up, you can kind of work backwards and think I might be trying to do too much with this one piece of code or whatever. It's not always the case. Obviously, if is an important concept, but you can actually get really far without using if you follow a lot of object-oriented patterns and principles. So in this case, what we should be doing is having a view that corresponds to each one of these routes instead of overriding and using the same view for multiple things, because I think you could call this kind of a Liskov violation in a way. It's a bit meta. Like if you go read up on Liskov, you're going to see a bunch of stuff about subtypes of types and all this stuff. And people get really hung up on the details about is that only applying to really strictly typed object oriented blah, 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 blah. And in my opinion, no. In my opinion, if you have something that's supposed to represent a thing and then it starts to represent more than that thing, it's no longer belonging to the super class or the concept that it's supposed to be for. So you can kind of see that if you look back over here. So the way this is actually kind of designed is that each one of these routes, or in Rails, you might call this like a controller action. Typically, what we would have is each one of these corresponds to one view. And what we have done is, and I was looking at the wrong one down here, the one up there actually was just redirecting, but this one is rendering the index. So we're reusing the index for two different things. And now that I've said that out loud, that feels more like a violation of the single responsibility principle, which is also in that solid thing I was referencing. But in any case, so what's happening is we're reusing this index, but this action, this get rooms, has been adding things to this that we need in order to make this page function, but in our home page we didn't. And that's just a result of these things are not really the same thing, but we're treating them like the same thing. So what I want to do is actually add a new file inside of channels here, and we'll just call this show.ejs like that. I'm going to copy the entire index over in there. Okay, and then we'll just save this and not worry about it. And then over in our index, what we're going to do is start cutting some stuff. Before I forget, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to close this show so I don't accidentally work on the wrong file. And then an index here, what I want to do is render channels show for, sorry, I was in the right spot and I'm scrolled past it. So I'm going to do channels show like that. And then here, what we can do is actually start cutting some stuff. So first of all, what we don't want here is this channel details business. because we don't have that. We also don't want room because we don't have that. And then down here, this is fine. Channel is for each channel. That's all good. This room, we should just remove that anyway, so we'll have to cut that on the other side. Then here, this if business, everything here, we want to get rid of. Everything inside of this if. So I'm going to come all the way down to the else and just axe all of that. And then let's have this backwards. And this should be good. And I actually don't need any of this JavaScript. So we can cut all of that. So this page, realistically, we would want to redesign this and make this like, an actual sort of home page. But for now, I'm going to just kind of leave it as it was. Hopefully I didn't break it again in a different way, but now it looks fine. Cool. So yeah, I think I'm going to do, I'm kind of musing on this, but I think I'm going to work out like a more in-depth series on building like a real standalone chat application with more of like a front-end framework or something. So I'm not going to worry too much with the UI, but obviously this doesn't look amazing. So if we click on this private channel, first off, let's see if it works. Includes of undefined. No. What about if I click on TechMaker? Nothing. Okay, so something is wrong there. So let's come back over to, first of all, now let's close index because we're done with that. So on show, here it's saying, I believe it's saying channel details is undefined, which shouldn't be the case on one of those channels. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. Okay, so we have channel details. So this should be coming from here. Okay, let's console log channel details and just see what we got. Okay, so before we refresh, we're gonna get kicked out again. Okay, so if I click on first private channel, theoretically it's still gonna be broken. Okay. So I don't know why it's broken because I have channel details is being logged out here. So channel details is post content. Maybe I need to say dot content here. I thought I already did that. Yeah, I've already done that. So I don't understand what's going on there. Maybe I didn't do it and I'm just dreaming. Okay, anyway. So do this Jackson thing again here. And let's go over here to our private channel. And hopefully this works now. Okay, cool. So now you can see here we've got tests coming in. And again, it's showing my messages, which it should not because I'm not actually a member of this channel. Or haven't been approved, rather. But we're not going to worry with that in this episode. We'll do that in the next episode. So we've got a couple of options here on fixing this next one. It's a similar situation. And I just realized that I haven't actually said what the problem is. So if we click on this public channel over here, we're going to get cannot read property includes of undefined. And the reason for that is because the public channels do not get an approved addresses. And we're trying to call that method. So the options we have are to prevent that from being called in the view if it's actually a public channel, or to provide an empty approved addresses here. So my instinct is that probably it would be a better design to go ahead and add an empty approved addresses, but since I've already got some data out there in the wild, I think I'm going to try to prevent it here for now. And to do that, I'm actually not 100% sure if I can do this way. What I would like to do is sort of use an or right here, sort of like a flow control, and say like if, what is it? It would be channel details dot, and what was that? Let me actually scroll up here. Type is public, like that. So here's the question, and this is sort of like how the language works, and I'm not as familiar with some of the JavaScript language details as I am other languages, but like, so what would be nice is if this first thing evaluates to true, if the or doesn't even get evaluated after. And the reason for that would be if this gets evaluated, it's still going to blow up because it's still not going to know how to call that method approved addresses includes. But if this says true and then we just don't even look at this, then that would save us. So let's go check and see if that works. And the answer is no. So I spent a bit of time kind of reading up on some things and checking through the logs here. And it actually looks like this should have worked. But as you can see here, we're logging out the channels. And if we go back, so we have this TechMaker channel here. And that channel was created, before we added these other attributes. So that's something with these decentralized things, is like you really can't deploy anything where you're going to have live data until you're pretty confident that you're not going to be changing the underlying data model, because you can't migrate these data structures in the way that you would migrate like a Postgres database or something. So there's no way, well, maybe you can actually. I shouldn't say you can't. It probably would be kind of difficult. So it depends on what you're trying to do. But what we could do is go ahead and amend this TechMaker one so that it has the public type on it. But I don't think I want to do that. And since I'm going to have to roll back a little bit here, I think I'm actually going to go ahead and, did I just undo? Like, what did I just undo? I think I'm good. I think it's all good. But since I've got to roll back a little bit, I think what I'm going to do is actually kind of come up here and I guess do two things actually. So let me pull this down just a little bit so I can see a little more stuff. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that all these have the same attributes all the time. It's just that we're going to ignore the approved addresses on here. And I think that that's fine, basically. In fact, I mean, we could just kind of have this person as an approved address on it and it just wouldn't matter. So we could just send all this data all the time. And you know what, let's just do that because it doesn't really matter. Like having, I mean, we are storing that one extra line of data. But, like, let's say, I don't know. I might change my mind on this later. Definitely not pasting that, right? Okay, there we go. So we'll just say data is that. And so now we're always posting this stuff. We have the channel type. It's coming in as a variable and the body coming in as a variable. I think that's good. So the other thing I want to do is rename channels. And actually what I've been thinking about doing, and I'm going to have to do this kind of manually through everything because it's not going to be easy to just kind of find and replace. So what I'm going to do is actually just put TechMaker dot in front of all this stuff. TechMaker dot channel membership. So I'm thinking about this like a namespace or something. So like if you have, think of like this is like your database name. So the database would be like TechMaker, and then this would be like the table name. So we can have like TechMaker channels, and let's see here. Here we need to, I'm going to copy this so I don't have to keep typing. I did spell that right in both places, didn't I? Yep. Okay, so channels there, channels, channel memberships, channels, and we should be just about done. Let's see. We're definitely going to have one in the view. So we can do messages there. Messages. So this is going to reset all of the data on our screen. So we should come down here. Type is techmaker.messages. I don't know that that's actually getting applied right now. So I'm not sure how relevant that one is. Let's just take a quick look. I think that's going to be everything. So if we refresh, we're going to have to log back in. So let's give it. Did we not change anything that would make it? Maybe we didn't save. Normally I have to log back in after making all these changes. Maybe not. I'm still getting messages here. So that's, well, it's because. All right. So it's still pulling back my channel memberships. And that's going to be because it's based on, let me actually log out and create a new account. So let me just come over here and stop the server and restart it. What in the heck? How do you stop this thing? There we go. Whatever. Okay. Let's try it again. So log in. I'm going to create a new account. I'm going to register here. And, you know, the reason that, first of all, the reason that in some of these pages, like we were just looking at, you're still getting stuff coming back even after we renamed these, if you're curious, is because like for channel memberships, if I'm not mistaken, where would we be pulling that back? We're on the room show page, right? So that's where we were. So we're saying memberships, get these memberships, and its addresses. I'm not sure that all of this is getting overridden in the way that I'm imagining. Like, because you would think that this filters out. Maybe like, maybe there may be something I'm not understanding here. I know that when we have this refs here or when we have hashes, I've noticed that I think that in this case, this is pulling back things regardless of what you put right here in this type. I mean, I definitely can't say that conclusively, but like here's where the channels are being pulled back, right? And we haven't stored anything with techmaker.channels, so you would think that actually those channels wouldn't show up. But we're passing in channel refs here. And, you know, I think that sometimes these things are overriding whatever you put here. Like, I think if you put like a hash here, it might just not matter what this is. But I'm not sure. That doesn't sound right. So I'll double check on it. But let's just like do one thing really quick. Let's log back in really fast. Let's look at this. And let's just see if I'm actually getting... I'm wondering if something didn't save right or something. Maybe I didn't put my password correctly. Maybe I didn't. Okay, let's try that again. Boy, if that's 2 times in a row, that's bad. Something else is up. Access non-existing property Mongo error. Huh. So it's not accessing my database. Cannot access private key of undefined. You know what? It's because I was on register and I was trying to log in and I haven't built out any handling for that. Sorry, my bad. Okay, let's go ahead and log in. Hopefully this works this time. Okay, cool. Okay, something must have not saved or updated or something because now you can see I have no channels coming back. Okay, sorry. That made no sense. Now it makes way more sense. Okay, so if we go to /channels, we should have nothing because, again, we've namespaced that. Feeling way better right now. We've made it through. Okay, if I create a channel here, let's do test, and let's do better than that. Let's do public test, create a channel. Let's come back over in our Aleph Explorer, and now you can see, so they're going to get annoyed that we're putting stuff in here with such long names because it's going to mess up their UI. But you can see now we've got a TechMaker channel memberships here, and we have address there, okay, and then down here we've got channel, and it has me in there as an approved address. Now again, like, we're not going to use that, but what that's going to do, if we click on a public channel now, it shouldn't break. Cool. Okay, so that episode was a small struggle, but we got through it. We got the bugs sorted out, I think. So let's just quickly run through the pages that were broken. So that was broken initially. The public was broken. I guess for good measure, I should create a private channel. Let's do private test, private, create the channel, see what happens here. Okay. So we got our private test. We got our public test. All this is working. I should be able to chat in here. Cool. Over here in Aleph Explorer, we should now have a techmaker.messages. All right, and then for good measure, let's just go to the channels index here so you can see that we've got our channels listed. Okay, cool. So every page looks like it's functional. None of these are beautiful, obviously, but I think that's where we're going to stop for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to do what we were talking about and go ahead and filter out messages from our private channel via WebSockets. We already are filtering out messages if you're not in the channel on page load. And you can see that here. Where is it? I think, yeah. If channel details approved addresses includes. And actually, you know what? This needs to be changed anyway, now that I'm looking at this, because the truth is, we don't want this to be the case if it's a public channel. So right now, before I continue on, I'm going to go ahead and say if channel details dot type is public or that, right? So that should, let's just refresh over here and see if it loads. Okay, public test. And so we'll have to test all this stuff later. And I'm actually a member of both channels, so it wouldn't make any difference. Anyway, so we'll test that out in the next episode and work on filtering things out via the WebSockets, which are happening down here. So when we pull back the data via the sockets and we have this append message business, we want to make sure that we have in here, is a can post message or something like that. In any case, this has gone on far too long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Thanks for watching.